Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a bite-sized branding every second Friday of the month. This time, we're a little bit late on our second show because Grant and I wanted to take the opportunity to actually be in the same room.
In the same place at the same time. Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to bite-sized branding. And this is where we're going to unbundle subject matter. We've got to beat the clock at 5 minutes or less. And once again, we're going to see what it's like being in the same room.
Yeah, we're actually quite intrigued about this because we're not sure how it's going to change the dynamic. Also, you know, we are sitting quite cozy.
This is 1.5.
Yeah.
By the way.
It's all an illusion.
Yeah. Maybe deceiving.
It's the lens.
A little bit like advertising. A little bit deceiving sometimes.
Awesome, guys. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about some cool subjects. One of them is going to be all about rebrands. Going to be talking about when is it the right time to introduce your network or your customers into your new rebrand. Everybody has a lot of differing opinions about this, so we're going to unbundle that a little bit.
Yeah.
Then, in case you haven't noticed already, LinkedIn's done a bit of a refresh, so we're going to talk about LinkedIn and what our thoughts about the refresh. And then branded interiors, which is an interesting subject, but all about continuity. How do you take a brand from being on the screen or in the digital space into how it works in a physical space? So we're going to talk about that in kind of multiple dimensions as well, not just retail space, but also the corporate space. You know, branded businesses, branded offices, that kind of.
Yeah, and when to use a brand, when to apply aesthetics of the brand, so that you're not always shouting all the time, but sometimes it's an experience.
Yeah, we talk about that. We haven't even started the clock.
But we're gonna get into it. Don't worry. That's talk number 3.
Cool. So, are you ready to go? So, first subject, we're going to talk about rebrand and when to introduce your community into your rebrand. When is it a good time to bring them in and say, "Hey guys, this is what we're doing. Get excited." You know. So, ready?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna hit that clock. I'm going to give it a shot. There. I'm trying to There we go. Nope, never done this before. Hey. Clock is started.
Well, let me start the ball rolling.
Okay.
I believe strongly that brands need to evolve. They need to move with the times and the trends. Therefore, just because you got a logo or a badge or a brand, and yes, it needs to stay, but I think it needs to be tweaked and twisted. Yeah. And that's where it gets into that whole rebranding as to why rebrand.
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit. It was about a month ago now when we were talking about the Commonwealth Bank rebrand and what happened with Commonwealth Bank and our thoughts on the rebrand there. Yeah, I agree. I agree that every brand needs to refresh over time just to stay relevant. And it's also what we talk to our clients about. It's a great time to re-engage clients that are maybe sitting on the fence or you haven't yet converted.
Yeah. It's
a great time to reach out to them and talk to them about something that's not about selling to them, not about a product, not about a service. It's about getting them to become part of the community of the brand. So inviting them in to see, okay, this is what we're trialing, this is what we're testing, this is what we're thinking of doing, or even just keep an eye out for what's happening. In a couple months, something new is going to happen with X brand. You know?
But I think as an owner of a brand, you never want to look like you are falling behind or that you're looking a touch old.
Yeah.
So when you're touching a brand and you're revisiting a brand, it means that you're staying current of trends and customers' needs and requirements, and therefore you're facilitating the adaptation of acceptance to a certain degree.
And I think also to kind of continue on from that, when you're feeling like you're getting the wrong types of customers or your customers are disconnected, often that's a reflection of where the brand is at.
Correct.
That the brand maybe is aged or dated or it no longer resonates with the right type of customer that you want to be interacting with. So at those points where you feel like you've kind of stagnated, maybe your business has plateaued and it's not really growing anymore, it's not really innovating or changing, it's not really making a dent in the market, that would be a good time to look at your brand, look at the strategy around your brand, look at what elements may need to be modernized or even changed. Something that could have been traditional or printed before could be digitized now, or it could go the opposite way. You know, in industries which are highly digitized, sometimes the great thing to do is to be a little bit disruptive and print something out for once.
Well, we live in a disruptive age where it's about breaking the rules. It's about taking those 1950 marketing trends and bringing them into digital formations. I think works extremely well. Another point that I think is extremely valid with rebranding is that the internal customer, the staff, need to get also a little bit of refresh as well. Get a little bit excited about the brand that they're representing. And therefore, it excites the blood and just gets the teamwork coming together when you do a rebranding.
Yeah, I actually have 2 really cool examples of clients that we've worked with. So one of our clients, BureauServe, they were really unsure about the name for the new brand. So what we did was we gave them a set of like 7 bullet points to kind of follow when renaming your business. And we said, farm it out to the team. Get the team integrated into the rebrand process. Get them a part of it, because what it does is it buys them into the business. You know, they feel like they're part of the change, part of the growth, part of the new brand that is being formed. The other one was King's Cross Distillery, which is a distillery that we launched here in King's Cross. We're actually in King's Cross at the moment. And we actually designed quite a few logos for them, and they were unsure what direction to take. So they took a bit of a risk, which for them worked really well because of the communities that they tapped into. So they tapped into communities like the Potts Pointers, which is like a very much, centralized around this area. And they said, here are 4 options that we're looking at. Give us your feedback. And we got over 600 people responded with A, B, or C, or D. Or they gave their feedback. Hey, I like this part of A, but I really like this part of C. You know, and that really gave us some great insights. So once we actually came to launch the brand, the whole community was already in the vibe. They're already ready to go.
But you got to be careful, because there was a brand called Gap, clothing brand, and they went and changed the brand. And so much so that their customer turned around and wrote to them or responded to them and said, we don't like the change, go back. And therefore they had to reverse themselves into what they used to have, because what they moved forward to wasn't accepting. So it's rebranding is a subtle thing. You know,
I think that's a great way of putting it, a subtle thing. Like those 2 examples, one was a refresh, one was a new brand. I think when you're changing a brand that already exists, you have to be careful not to go for something that you think it's not about you. It's not about you. You have to look at the customers. What resonates with them? And sometimes not refreshing the logo itself, but refreshing the elements around it is more effective than changing the logo, because that disconnects from the customer.
Also positioning.
I
think that, there we go. For once, we're getting the clock right. For once, we're getting the clock right. Look, I think that my take home from this is, you've got to allow a brand to have its truth. You've got to be able to know when to evolve it. You've got to know when to, it's got to be subtle, but it's got to be effective as and when, because rebranding is not a cheap exercise.
No, and it's definitely not something you want to get wrong. I think I remember Holzbush came and visited my college when I was in college, and they had just done the Qantas rebrand, which was an $11.5 million rebrand. Because you think about it, eventually every plane needs to be rebranded.
Correct.
And every plane, I think, is between $100,000 $150,000 to get that paint put on the tail and the branding put on the side. So if they got that wrong, if it didn't really hit the mark, and they had already done 50 planes, that's, what is that, $5 million there?
But you've got to look at the investment to the fact that what is that brand's worth, its voice, its command, its promise, in the sense of intellectual property on the books. You've got to hold that customer value. But we're going to get into another subject matter. I don't think we should go there.
We're done.
Rebranding is important. But where, as and when you feel the need to just stay ahead of the game.
And look, and if you see some rebrands out there, please share them with us. We'd love to unbundle those, talk about our insights, our thoughts on that. There's a bunch of them that have happened probably over the last 2 years on some really traditional, like brands that we know, like family brands. Like Cadbury did one recently, and then obviously Commonwealth that we talked about. So if you know one that's coming up, or you've seen one that's happened recently, we'd love to dig it out.
Or there's a brand that you don't like. Let us know. Let us know.
We'd love to hear your opinion on a brand you don't like, so we can then talk to
and we can always get the brand managers, the invited guests.
Let's do it.
Let's do it,
guys. Awesome. So now we're going to talk about the LinkedIn refresh. So I'm not going to unbundle it too much right now, because it's pretty obvious, but we'll pop it up onto the screen, and then we'll kind of talk through what we do and don't like about the new LinkedIn refresh. I'll hit the clock.
Let's get going.
It's like very hard to do through the screen. Hey, there we go.
Okay, you get
awesome. So I'm going to share this, share it up here. You don't want to see us. Share screen. There we go. Yep, that's the one. Here it is. So there it is. There's Grant's lovely profile there. And as you can see, in case you don't remember the last LinkedIn, you probably would have noticed that there was a lot of heavy grays before, a lot of dark blues. What you can see they've done is they've really lightened everything up. They've made borders a lot smaller. They've rounded off the edges of things. It's got the light gray background. You know, the banner at the top used to be the full blue, and now it's white. What are your thoughts initially, kind of on
Well, first of all, here's a very good example of subtle. Of just subtly making changes. You know, if we didn't point these things out, I don't think you'd actually notice or miss the strong blue bar. I just found that the rounded corners just was a nice touch. Once again, it still looks like LinkedIn. It's not like it's now far removed and it's totally different. Everything is still in the same place. It's just a little bit lighter, a little bit easy on the eye, I think, to just view, because often there's a lot of things going on that particular page.
Yeah, and it's definitely fresh, right? There's an ease to it. You look at it now and it doesn't feel like things are screaming at you. It's a lot calmer.
Correct.
I think one of the things that I like the most is something that people don't necessarily see, but something that people experience, and it's way faster. Like messaging, the pop-ups used to take a little bit of time to actually load up, and now it's like instant. And Facebook rolled out a new messenger, and it's like painful. Like you click on it, and it like takes forever to load up or forever to find somebody. It's like not a good execution. This, on the other hand, was fantastic. The rollout was seamless.
But once again, the adaptation is they've done a lot of their adaptation towards device usage, in the sense of the type of devices that are being used, how people use those particular devices, and how does it work in a responsive nature with the view that it comes up. It doesn't matter which size screen you're viewing, that it still looks like it's part of the same family. And I think that's where they've done business.
I think like there's a lot of synchronicity between the desktop version and the mobile version now. You feel like you're in the same experience, no matter which platform you're on, what screen size, etc. you're working on. And I think that is absolutely brilliant. They've taken into consideration like quite decisively what it's going to be like on mobile, and how does that then transition onto your desktop experience, which is fantastic.
They've also acknowledged the fact that people view content with 5.4 seconds. If you haven't got something of value, they're going to flick on and get into the next story. So once again, they tried to make it that you just hold your eye a little bit longer, so your eye doesn't get tired with the view that you want to move on, and you're having to hunt. It's just that it's a quicker and easier read. Yeah,
definitely. The iconography was like a lot smaller before. Now it's like very easy to find exactly what you're looking for. You know, the way they've done the paneling and everything is nice. Like everything just kind of sits where you would expect it to sit, right? So it's easy to just find everything you need to find.
I think that was a very, very good example. Of what I think makes for transitioning of a brand into evolving with the view to stay effective in its market.
Now, I have a question based on our conversation before. I'm going to stop sharing now, so you can.
We're going to check our clock.
Check our clock. Where are we?
Looking in the mirror.
There we are. So I got a question based on our conversation just a second ago, right? Could there have been a time that because I would call the engagement in LinkedIn is kind of fair weather, right? People kind of come and go, especially when they need a new job or they're looking, that's when they come, and then they kind of go, you know? Could they have used it as an exercise to have engaged people within the process, given them a little bit of, like stoke the fire a little bit to say, hey, there's something coming?
I think they would, I think they could have definitely used it as a marketing tactic with the view to create more momentum, to say, look at what changes we've made. I think they take it as a given that most people in the professional realm are using LinkedIn and stay on the platform. But I think that they could have made more rah-rah about it. But I think their strategy was less was more. I think
it kind of just happened. Like you woke up refreshed, and then all of a sudden
it wasn't a big thing.
You
know, Google had this thing where they had to move the 1G out by 2 pixels. And they said, well, why did you move it out? They said, well, it was out by 2 pixels.
Needed to be done.
It needed to be done.
But then like Google in comparison, when Google did roll out their rebrand, that was a big like hoo-ha. Like before it even had rolled out, people were talking about it. It was everywhere.
But their Google Doodle is the one that keeps it trending all the time. Keep it fresh all the time. Keep it what is happening in your city all the time. I think that is so on point because their brand is being utilized in everybody's lives. Every single day.
Relevancy. Perfect timing.
I love this clock. I love this clock. It took us 26 episodes to get there.
We got it. We did. We actually did a lot of like for a background story, a lot of clock research. Like we ran so many little clock apps trying to find the right one. And then even when we found the right one, the alarm wasn't the round style. And we wanted this kind of like traditional.
I think the most classic was when you put the clock behind you and then it went to sleep.
Yeah.
And we could,
I'm like, I can't get the.
And like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Our first live show like had its little teething issues for sure. Awesome, guys. Well, I hope you're enjoying the show so far.
We're going to get on to subject number 3.
Subject number 3.
But I think before we do that, let's just so everyone understands the concept a little bit more. Our role here is to share our knowledge, to share our expertise, to also learn a little bit. But at the same time, the whole point of unbundling is the fact that we talk about a subject for 5 minutes or less so that we don't go too long. Sometimes we do, but we try really hard not to. But at the same time, we try to give you guys as much bite-sized content as possible within the framework of a subject matter. So once again, like, share, ask us questions, give us challenges, send us brands that you like, don't like. We also want to learn from your aspect as well. So keep on engaging, subscribing, sharing. We want to have all of it with you guys. We're going to keep on pushing the envelope on our side. We're trying it in the same room for a change. I think it's working pretty good. But I think at the end of the day, it's up to you to give us those challenges.
And we'd love your feedback as well. Like, if you like this kind of interaction a little bit more, we'll try and get some guests in with us, whether it's in Melbourne when Grant's in Melbourne or whether it's me here in Sydney. We'll try to get the guests to actually join us. So it's only like 2 of us in
well, not like Qantas giving us a sponsorship to fly me up all the time. Just,
we love Qantas.
Come on, Qantas. Come on, you can do
you
it.
Watch the show. Yeah. Awesome, guys. So we'll jump on to the last subject. I think this is a cool subject. I have a couple of little insights that I'm looking forward to kind of putting out there. But this talk, we're talking about branded interiors, and both in the retail space and in the corporate space as well. You know, the office space. How does that kind of live and breathe the brand? So you ready to go?
Let's hit it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm practicing this. Hey, that was perfect.
Without knocking the clock over. Fantastic. Right, let's get going. You start this one.
Awesome. So one thing that I'm really kind of passionate about in this space, which is what I'm really excited to talk about, are those brands that are revolutionizing the traditional corporate office space. You know, there's a lot that happens out in the retail space, and some of it is great, some of it's like kind of misses, some of it hits the mark like right on the head. But I think in the internal space is where a lot of people forget. Like, you have these amazing shops, you have these amazing pop-ups, and then you forget your own team and embracing that same culture, that same essence into the interior, into like the interior brand. And I know one brand that does this really well in some of their head offices is Cadbury.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, where they kind of have like the Cadbury like Funland kind of thing. There's fireman's poles and like grass areas and bean bags. Like it's a real playground for the team. And they get more and more engaged and enjoy coming to the office because of the space. And I know people have like kind of lacked from that experience recently with COVID.
Yeah.
But maybe there's an opportunity in there for the brand makers to have a look at their interior space and then go, okay, what could we do differently to make people excited to come back into the office, you know?
A brand is about an experience. You know, if you bought a ticket to a show, or you hopped on a plane, or you had an experience where you bought an opportunity, you want to get that experience. You know, if you go to Disneyland, they give you that Disney experience where you're standing in a queue. They tell you that in 30 seconds you're going to walk through the door, and on second one those doors open and you're walking, and it's all about performance. I think the same must go for any particular type of brand. If you're a small little shop, or you're a bank, or you're a corporate structure, or you're a funky enterprise, once again, how can you play within your space? Sometimes it doesn't always have to be badge, brand. It could be just the colors. It could be you've got a funky pattern on the carpet. It could be just those funky chairs. It's all that. When people are sitting down, what are they feeling when they're inside your brand?
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what they captured within Cadbury. It wasn't that they printed Cadbury everywhere. It's that the beanbags were purple. You know, it was that the pole had like a little bit of a candy cane effect to it. You know, like things like that people just go, oh, I can see the brand in there. I can see the culture, the elements, the essence. And it just brings me into the brand without having to print it on every little thing.
Correct.
And Google does this well as well. Google creates such a great environment around the brand where you essentially feel like I could live here.
So I'll give an example. I went into a client's offices once, and they sold pool chemicals.
And very exciting.
No, very exciting. But do you know that they do not have one picture in their offices on any pool? It was bland. It was plain. You walked into the warehouse and there was just boxes and they just sold pool chemicals. And I'm thinking, for all the people that came into that office, why don't you sell shiny, sexy pools? You might not sell the pool, but you sell the chemicals that go in.
Yeah.
You need to make that experience. You could extend and exaggerate a little bit. You could have a water fountain. You can have water in a tube running up and down.
But yeah.
You know, there's so many things that you could possibly do. I just think you don't have to be crazy and off the wall.
No.
But you can have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
And let your customers who come into your space walk away and say, gee, that was interesting.
Yeah. I once went to PwC actually for a consulting opportunity. And I went into their space and it just blew my mind because it was really unexpected. But they've gone on such a digital pathway that they essentially digitized the entire space. You walk in and there is the regular kind of lobby area with seats, but right in front of you, there's kind of this like shell with an opening, and you walk in and it's a whole digital interactive space where you can learn about the brand, learn about the essence of the brand, the history, the knowledge, etc. And then they took me down to the creative space because obviously I'm a creative and that's where they want me to have a look. And it was this beautiful open space with great wood grains and nice and open, the entire like high ceiling, open space. And I was like, wow, this is a kind of space you would want to sit in to generate ideas. And there were a lot of pods in there where they would be able to bring teams together and quickly be able to brainstorm and put together ideas. And I thought that's a great cultural piece. And it's not what you see out of PwC on the outside, but with their little brand refresh, they also bled it into the interiors of their offices. So it's quite exciting.
I had an experience once at a bank, corporate office, where they had all these little offices and they gave them all these funky names. But if you went into the office, they would hit a switch and of course the glass would just mist up. So you had privacy, but you were in the glass.
I was like, is he going to finish it? Is he going to finish it?
So let me bring that point home. So once again, each room was funky put together, had funky names. But as you would go in, it would just whiten out. And suddenly it was your private space. You had your meeting. When you go hit the switch, the brand would come back into that particular boardroom. It was just and it's a bank.
Yeah.
What are they going to do about funkiness? they just went and had a little bit of internal fun.
Yeah. So I think that's the main thing that we want to convey here is allow people to be a part of your brand, allow them to be a part of the community and the culture, and then bleed that or take the essence of that and put it into every avenue that people connect with you, whether it's the internal people or your customers coming from the outside. Let them be a part of the brand. Let them be a part of the experience.
Well, I think to bring it home, I think it's about live your brand. That's it. Just make sure it doesn't be overrated. Just do your thing.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I like
just do it.
Yeah, and don't be constricted by what's conventional in your industry. Convention was created over time, and you can then create your own convention over time as well. So just because you're a law firm or a bank doesn't mean you have to be
boring. Like dentists. I think they can be so creative. They can be so much fun because there's so much stress in that space. I
remember my dentist before it became really mainstream. He used to have like pictures on the roof, like things you could look at, and then eventually he got like a little screen, and when you're laying there, you could like watch something on the roof, which I thought was great because I'm like, oh, this is fun,
It's a word of mine. A little bit of edutainment.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
well,
teach me
guys,
how to brush my teeth. No. Awesome.
So there you have it. Okay, 3 quick shows. I know we go a little bit long sometimes. It's just the passion. But you know what? When you want to push your brand a little bit, call guys like us. We'll push it for you.
That's a plug. I like that. That was a plug. Awesome, guys. Thank you very much, as always, for joining us. All these shows obviously get published, and then we will be republishing the content over time. As always, if you do have any comments, likes, shares, and obviously your feedback as well, if you have ideas for things you want us to talk about or people that you want us to meet, even if it's like really obscure, just be like, go meet Will Smith, and we'll put the energy in. We'll try and make it happen for you. So you just put it out there, and we'll make it happen.
We've connected.
Yeah, that's connected. Right now in the same room. Awesome, guys. You have a great Friday. You have a great Friday, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Have a good one.
Cheers, everyone. Goodbye.
I cannot work your laptop.